on our nation's conscience and a stain on our belief in the rule of law. Defying court orders that granted him bail is an abuse of power and an assault on justice. Showore on Wednesday had urged Southeast governors, lawmakers, traditional rulers, and religious leaders to join the planned demonstration for Kanu's release. He disclosed that he had contacted several prominent Igbo leaders, including Anambra State Governor Professor Chukwuma Soludo, Abia State Governor Dr. Alex Oti, as well as other governors, including actually asking them to solicit the support of Nnamdi Kanu's release. He wrote, "This is no longer good nor fair. I therefore lend my voice in full support of the campaign led by Adiyele Showore for his immediate release or due prosecution. We fail as patriots if we allow Kanu's case to fester as yet another wound this nation refuses to heal." He disclosed that he had contacted some of these leaders, Peter Obi, Dr. Alex Oti, Senator Eyinaya Baribe, and also others to join the movement. The activist also revealed that he reached out to Atiku through his team, noting that the former vice president's support would give significant weight to the campaign. He also disclosed, however, that Kanu had remained in the custody of the Department of State Services, his rearrest in 2015 following his controversial extradition from Kenya. Despite multiple court rulings ordering his release, including an October 2022 Court of Appeal judgment that discharged and acquitted him of all charges on the grounds that his extradition violated international laws, the federal government is yet to comply. Nnamdi Kanu faces charges bordering on terrorism, treasonable felony, and incitement before the Federal High Court in Abuja, all of which he has consistently denied. Meanwhile, Omoyele Sowore, activist, former presidential candidate, has announced October 20 as a date for a protest march to demand the release of the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. Sowore made this known on his X handle today. According to him, the protest would be a historic march to the Asa Rock Villa in Abuja, while assuring that it would be conducted peacefully and legally to demand the release of Nnamdi Kanu. On Wednesday, Sowore urged all of the Southeast governors, including the lawmakers and their traditional rulers and religious leaders, to join the demonstration. He also emphasized that while reaching out to other prominent Igbo leaders, it was prominent that Nigeria does what is needful in order for the nation to heal. Elsewhere, Senate President Godswill Akpabi today cautioned against framing Nigeria's security crisis along religious lines, insisting that terrorists and bandits target Nigerians indiscriminately, regardless of faith. Akpabi spoke during plenary in Abuja while contributing to a motion on alleged religious persecution of Christians in Nigeria, which followed a debate on reports that some foreign governments were considering sanctions against the country over claims of religious intolerance. The Senate President said portraying terrorism as a conflict between Christians and Muslims was misleading and only served to deepen divisions amongst Nigerians. Akpabio explained that the nature of attacks often dependent on the region where they occurred, which should not be taken or mistaken as evidence of religious targeting. He proposed sending a delegation of lawmakers to the United States to engage with American parliamentarians and educate them on the true nature of the country's challenges. He also warned against allowing foreign narratives, especially from Western countries, to define Nigeria's security realities. He warned that misrepresentation abroad could lead to sanctions that would harm all Nigerians. According to him, what is happening in the United States is of concern to Nigeria. It's of concern to the Christians. It's of concern to the Muslims. Because the moment they bring sanctions, sanctions will breed poverty, and poverty knows no religion. End quote. Nigerians have called out the presidency, saying it is now that the international community are calling the politicians out that they decided to speak on it. Senator Godswill Akpabio has been mute ever since the consistent insecurity bedeviling several communities across the country. Up until now, they have refused to address these endemic challenges. But right now that the United Nations is calling out Nigerian politicians and accosting them of what they have done in keeping silent, the Nigerian leaders are actually now speaking out. Now, Now, still on the Senate president, there was a clash today with the minority leader, Moro of PDP Benue South. There was a heated exchange over the growing wave of defections of opposition lawmakers to the All Progressives Congress. The confrontation followed the formal defection of Senator Calvin Chukwu Enugu East from the Labour Party to the APC. Chukwu cited collapse of internal democracy and lack of cohesion within his former party as reasons for his decision. After reading Chukwu's defection letter, Akpabi taunted the opposition, saying their dwindling ranks were no longer a source of concern. He added that opposition parties needed to reorganize themselves, stressing that Nigeria would not slip into a one-party state since INEC continues to register new political parties. In a sharp response, Minority Leader Moro cautioned Akpabi against dismissing the opposition. He also expressed worry about the rising defections, describing the chamber as becoming too full. Wishing Chukwu well in his new party, the PDP senator remarked, "He came here on the obedient movement, on a sympathy vote, but that's a story for another day." End quote. In his letter, Chukwu actually explained that his decision followed extensive consultations with his constituents and political associates. Senate leader Akpabi Bamidele, who obviously represents Ekiti Central, welcomed the defection, describing it as proof of growing confidence in President Bola Tinubu's administration. He hinted that more defections could follow, noting every politics is local and many senators are acting in the interest of their constituents. Bamidele, however, assured the opposition that cooperation in the Senate would continue, even as he warned that more of them may soon join the majority side. Now, the African Democratic Congress has described the World Bank's October 2025 report as clear confirmation that the economic policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration and the ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, have ruined the lives and livelihoods of the majority of Nigerians. You would recall that the presidency had faulted the latest World Bank report, claiming that about 139 million Nigerians are currently living in poverty, describing the figure as unrealistic, exaggerated, and detached from Nigeria's actual economic conditions. President Bola Tinubu's special advisor on media and public communication, Sunday Dare, made this known on Thursday via his official X handle, where he insisted that figures must be properly contextualized within global poverty measurement frameworks before being accepted as facts. Reacting in a statement signed by its National Publicity Secretary, Malam Bolaji Abdullahi, the ADC said the report exposes the wide gap between the government's rhetoric of economic progress and lived reality of Nigerians. He noted that while the administration celebrates increased revenue and meeting revenue targets, more citizens are slipping into abject poverty at a rate never seen before in Nigeria. The ADC also accused the government of masking its domestic economic failures with creative statistics that paint rosy pictures of economic progress while the people continue to suffer. You're currently listening to the World News right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We took a very short break. When we return, we'll head into a news analysis segment. I'll be joined via the telephone with Mr. Elvis Elimehele, who is a political, national, and social affairs commentator. He'll be giving us some insights into some questions posed at him on some of the stories read out on the World News at 6. Do kindly stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. This is still the World News right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. I'm being joined via the telephone with Mr. Elvis Elimehele. Mr. Elvis, good evening and thank you for joining us today.
Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay, sir. Thank you very much. Mr. Elvis, let's look at the situation where the Council of State has unanimously approved the appointment of Amupitan as INEC chairman. Amupitan is from the North Central and he's from Kogi. He's the new chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. The president, media aide, Bayo Nanuga, disclosed this in a statement today. His name has been submitted to the Senate for screening. You recall that we heard throughout the week about the fact that Amupitan will actually be the next INEC chair. In fact, from last week, we heard about Amupitan, and we heard that there were other candidates that were also submitted as nominees. But they say that this is the first time they're having an appointee from the North Central, and that Professor Amupitan is one that is quite esteemed. Do you think that Amupitan is inheriting quite a challenging institution as INEC, considering what marred the, will I say, meritocracy of the institution after the 2023 general elections? A couple of elections that were conducted after, which is the off-season elections, a couple of other elections, which there were some irregularities that were observed. So, what do you think Amupiton will be able to do to possibly take that institution to a level that Nigerians can trust it? Or do you see Amupiton to be, supposedly, as some Nigerians accuse, another stooge of the executive? What's your take on that, sir?
Well, let me tentatively say congratulations to him, and let me also congratulate even you, Esther, because you broke this news the last day I analyzed 6 p.m. news to you. That was a very good one on your side. That's a good one. And it has come to pass today. When I saw that the Council of State, the president presented his name and the Council of State accepted him, I said, well, this news, you have already broke it, and it was a good one. Let me tell you, his major assignment now is that he has to leave abroad, and he has to try as much as possible to bring back the image of INEC, because as we speak, INEC has one of the worst with very bad image in Nigeria is INEC, and I don't know how he's going to do it, but it's a very big task before him, because Mahmoud actually eroded the integrity INEC had during the time of Jega. Jega, people still believe in Jega's tenure, because Jega's election were at least better than what we saw in Mahmoud 2019 and 2023. Those were just completely a shameful election in this nation, especially 2023. After he introduced Beavers and he introduced IRS, and at the same time he used his hand to build, and he also used his hand to destroy what he built. So his living was just like a shameful exit. So I think Amupitan should pick up a very strong public relations on INEC and think of how he's going to revive the name. One. Number two, the first litmus test before him now is the November 8th election of Anambra State, election of governorship election of Anambra State. That's the first litmus. That's what we're going to look at. We need to judge him whether he's going to toe the line of his predecessor, Professor Mahmoud Yakub, or he's coming to sanitize INEC and bring credibility to INEC. He has a lot on his shoulder, Esther, and Nigerians will begin to give close marking, because where we are coming from is too bad, it's too deep. Mahmoud Yakub actually eroded all the integrity of INEC. So he has a clean slate to start building on, and let's see what he's going to do on that.
Well, the upcoming elections is Anambra State, like you said, in the southeast. There are talks that Amupitan may actually use this upcoming elections to prove something by having to reorganize the integrity and the perception of INEC as an institution. But that is just one state compared to conducting general elections where you have 36 states of the Federation. Also, Mahmoud Yakub had actually put some things in place. They've been able to organize, for the elections coming up in Anambra State. So Amupitan may just be coming to oversee the elections coming up. But there are a lot of electoral acts that needs upgrading, which has been sent to the Senate. And unfortunately, they had not presided over it. Do you think that Amupitan will push for the Senate to sit on it? That is, electoral reforms. Aside from what is currently in the Electoral Act, do you think that would be one of the aggressive assignments of Amupitan? Because by 2026, you're going to see a lot of pressure on the institution. Some political parties want to be registered. Some of them may even go to court and say, no, we don't identify with the current board in charge. A lot of them will be holding conventions. A lot of them will be holding primaries. Those who are not comfortable with primaries will be suing to court. INEC will have to get into all of that. Then towards June, you will start seeing campaigns. So there is a lot of pressure already on the institution. Also, electoral materials, beavers, all of these things are things that really need upgrading so that there will be no excuse during the general elections as to late arrival of electoral materials or some of the machines are not working. So, what would you expect Amupitan to do after the Anambra elections in terms of the upcoming elections in 2027 that Nigerians are already highly anticipating?
Esther, I don't envy him anyway, but let me tell you, having taken up the job, he must work according to the job specification. That's why every job has its own challenges. INEC chairman is a big job and it's a plump one. So let me remind you, Esther, that if he wants to be credible before Nigeria, he must work towards the reformation of the electoral system in Nigeria here, because what we have on ground now cannot actually give Nigeria credible election in 2026. 2027. We can't give Nigeria credible election because we have seen gray areas, after the 2023 election. We've seen so many gray areas that need a reformation. So if he wants to be credible before Nigeria, he should work first, electoral reform. But there's a caveat to that, Esther. Okay. The caveat is that no sitting president who always want to, have signed any electoral reform, especially when it is too close to election. It was only Jonathan that did it in 2013 and 2014, and he lost the election in 2015. He lost the election. Buhari did not sign. He did not sign that electoral reform 2019. He said he was opposed to the election, but because he knew he was going in 2023, he knew his tenure was off. Like signed that electoral reform in 2022 for the 2023 general election. And you see, there are still so many gray areas. So I'm not saying whatever pressure or whatever pressure that may come from Amupitan and even Nigerians, I'm not saying people, consenting to signing electoral reform between our 2027 general election, because they knew where the gray area are, and they knew how they favored them in 2023 general election, and they are still going to hide on that, to conduct the 2027 general election. Except Nigerians, like I keep saying, because the democracy belongs to us. We keep going to occupy National Assembly. Let them do whatever they are supposed to do between now and 2026, so that we can have a credible election for 2027. Otherwise, what we saw in 2023 is just a child's play, Esther.
Interesting. Now, Atiku is asking, he backed the Showare's campaign for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. In fact, I didn't know that we had so many people who were monitoring the timeline. So Showare had been advocating that he doesn't understand why Nnamdi Kanu is still in detention. So 2 days ago, Showare called on all the Southeast leaders, traditional leaders, and even some of the political appointees to, as a matter of urgency, immediately react to the situation of advocating for Nnamdi Kanu's release. Very recently, Michael Okpara, one of the legal counsel to Nnamdi Kanu, had been actually suggesting that it was very imperative, extremely imperative, that the federal government does something. They accused the federal government that it's Nnamdi Kanu's geographical location that is one of the impediments to his release. Now, Nigerians now went on social media, specifically those who are against the release of Nnamdi Kanu and some of the political appointees of this administration. They've been calling out Atiku Abubakar that why would he advocate for the release of Nnamdi Kanu? They brought out audio messages of Nnamdi Kanu shouting down and saying, "Let Lagos be burned." Nnamdi Kanu telling anyone who comes out on the 30th of May would be, supposedly murdered if they do that. A couple of all the audio reels that he had preached on the Biafran radio broadcast, they said that these are indictment to his person, and that is why he needs to be tried and convicted. But a lot of the political leaders, specifically Nigerian elites, especially in the southeast, they've been calling out. Atiku has lent his voice, and trust me, Larry Lainka, Bashir Ahmed, the former aide to late Muhammadu Buhari, they've all condemned Atiku supporting that call. What's your take on this?
Before the Atiku matter in this issue, Esther, I want first of all to say that the Southeastern political leaders are the reasons why Nnamdi Kanu is still in detention. Many of them are not supporting his cause. Many of them are not actually ready to come out and, play the role they are supposed to play. Forget about this lip service that, they come to the radio and television and start telling you that they want Nnamdi Kanu to be released. Many of them know that if Nnamdi Kanu is released today, their political future in the Southeast is dead. So that's why they are not really too serious the party. And you can imagine, it's a contrary thing. Yeah, some of them are saying on your mandate we shall stand. Yeah, they say that for Tinubu every day and President Tinubu, and he says President Tinubu is the one that holds the mantle, and that for the release of Kanu, if they are actually serious, if they are actually professing the government of Tinubu, should have been able to at least use political machinery to think of this. Sometimes all these shenanigans in the court, these are just trumped up things that will not go anywhere. But for Atiku Abubakar, coming to come and also speak on the matter, yes, he's coming on the angle of humanitarian ground, because this man has been in detention since 2021, and we are seeing the proceedings in the court going up and down. It's not really moving as expected. We don't even know which one is which. The recent one that on agitation now is that it's not feeling fine. Okay, let the Nigeria Medical Association come and examine him and all that. These are just political issues that are just to buy time to keep him there. So I think my work is speaking on this matter. Sometimes that this is in Nigeria. If some other persons, can also be passed on and released on ground. Let him also be released. Or let the judgment come, so that you know that he's not serving a prison sentence for whatever if he's found culpable or found guilty. But he's just in abeyance. He just get there. Don't even know what is going on today. It's in the Supreme Court today. The matter is back to High Court, and we don't know what is going on. So I think every right thinking Nigerians should speak in it. I'm saying that you already talking about organizing a protest on the 20th of this month, release Nnamdi Kanu. Let's see whether most of those political leaders from the South, you have mentioned their name, whether they'll be part of that protest. If they're not part of that protest, that's when you know that what I'm telling you this evening, Esther, that it's just like the hand of Jacob, the hand of Esau, but the voice of Jacob. That's what you will see. If they are not part of that, protest come 20th of October this month.
All right. But is there anything wrong in Atiku backing that? Because some people say he's acquiescing to treasonable felony. But we know what happened with Bello Bodejo. He was accused of treason. He had militias at his backyard, people who he was arming like soldiers. It's almost like non-state actors operating in state. That man was apprehended, taken to court for treasonable felony charges. And later, at the discretion of the Attorney General of the Federation at the time, he was released and cleared of all treasonable charges. Since that time, we've not heard anything from Bello Bodejo. The same thing with Sunday Igboho too. During the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, who is now late, these persons were supposedly very they voiced out like Nnamdi Kanu did and made quite a couple of utterances, which led to Igboho having to escape or run away, and he was detained at the Benin Republic prison. So the thing now is the fact that, yes, Nnamdi Kanu made quite a lot of statements that were quite indicting, because if you listen to them, I would play some during the evening rush, because we like to be objective in all of this. However, if they could give clemency to others, why is his own case different?
That's the reason why I'm saying that those ones they give clemency to Esther, go and look at the role the political leaders from their region played towards it. Most of the Yoruba people were in support of whatever Igboho was doing. And Buhari saw that he will not be able to fight everybody that is supporting Igboho in the southwest here. So the man find a way to run out of Nigeria, and that was the end of the case. Then even the invitation of the main leader, we saw the troop he lined up, the young Fulani men he recruited and gave the uniform and all that. That matter is, those who are prevailing on government to allow the matter to go just to go underground, come in community. So that's the same thing I want the Southeastern political leaders to also play the role of Nnamdi Kanu. I think Nnamdi Kanu has suffered for his own for almost 4 years in incarceration. So if they even come out at this time, it's even like a belated thing. But at least we are still expecting them to come out, because these two other men we made mention of, one of them was in detention for this number of years. But they had their way, and they are free men now. But Nnamdi Kanu, as we talk, is still in detention. And what you still get from the political leaders from the Southeast is that they are still talking about how to give the president about 10 million votes when it comes to 2027 general election. But if they are talking about giving him enough vote for him to come back in 2027, they should also be chipping it in that their brother in detention, let him use political ground to find a way to set him free. It's just so that it can be a win-win situation, Esther.
All right, Mr. Elvis. So the Senate President Godswill Akpabi spoke today. He cautioned against framing Nigeria's security crisis along religious lines. He's insisting that terrorists and bandits target Nigerians indiscriminately, regardless of their faith. But this is where a couple of Nigerians find it difficult to comprehend what these people do, and I'm referring to the National Assembly. There have been consistent bedeviling cases of insecurity. Kwara State, Kogi State, Plateau State and Benue State. In fact, before the one that happened where 200 persons were arrested in their homes, the Senate never spoke about it. The House of Rep, some of the House of Rep members whose communities are gravely affected, came out to literally cry on the floor. They were talking about these individuals of darkness deploying drones to their communities. There are videos and pictures of these drones arriving to scrutinize their communities before their onslaught. They presented pictures and videos and testimonials of the families who were affected by the onslaught of these guys. They kept mute. They did not even call for an emergency meeting with security operatives. They never even asked them to tell them exactly what is going on while we're experiencing insecurity across board. They were mute. Up until the United States of America, Senator Ted Cruz, Riley Moore, and a couple of them who have been advocating that Nigerian, in fact, they did not say Nigerians, they said Nigerian politicians will be barred from having access to the United States. Now, guess what was the worry of Godswill Akpabi? Godswill Akpabi's worry was that if they portray Nigeria as a country that is bedridden or ridden with terrorism, and that they have political leaders who are literally patting the back of insecurity, keeping quiet while these individuals are having their sway on innocent Nigerians, that it will affect everybody. That they will sanction not just the politicians, but every other Nigeria. And that if it happens, it will increase poverty. Now, Mr. Elvis, isn't it ironical that they're encouraging us to stop traveling out of the country, to invest here, that the economy is going to be well accommodating for everyone? They're even telling our nurses not to travel out of the country, to actually come back home, that it's better for us to come home and develop. How come if they sanction politicians and sanction Nigerians, it will cause poverty? I don't know if you understand my train of thought here.
Well, Esther, it's a shame that until the U.S. Senator made mention of this matter before our National Assembly members could, rise up and start criticizing. When the matter is not falling in their favor, that's when you begin to see then that they can speak on insecurity we talked about in this nation. With all the killing, the matter killing, we saw the number of people that were massacred, burnt alive. How many of them even went on, solidarity visit, But because it's mentioned in the U.S. now, many of them know that they have investment here. We stolen Nigeria stolen money and they stored over there. That's why you see this reaction. I've been seeing the reaction and I've been following it up, Everybody is speaking, even the Senate president. They know what they have abroad. They know.
Mr. Elvis, the Senate president said if they impose sanctions will breed poverty. And I'm wondering because very recently the president said he rebuffed President Donald Trump by saying that Nigeria is doing okay and that economy is doing well, that we made good money from non-oil proceeds. That was what the president said. So in what way sanctions will breed poverty, Mr. Elvis? Let me understand. I am shocked that the Senate decided to talk now just because they had talked about sanctions. They are the ones who cannot do without traveling out of the country for their medical whatever. They're the ones who travel out there for medical checkups. So who does it affect? I and you who do not travel out, is it not them it affects? And because of that, they've all decided to speak up.
They say he that is down, fear no fall. Even if America has to come with sanctions, it's not going to affect you and I. It's also them that it will affect. I know we have a lot of diaspora remittance, that is coming from diaspora to Nigeria, to some families here in Nigeria every year. I know about that, but the bane of contention is that they are not speaking for you and I because of what the Americans have said. They are speaking because they know where it is good to affect them. Most of what they loot out of this nation, it's not kept here, so they know that if sanction comes, they won't have the opportunity to go over there to go and you see whatever they have over their investment or whatever they have looted out of this place. That's their fear, and that's why you see all of them are coming out to criticize it. This killing has been on. We are aware of this killing, even as we talk. Now, the Plateau State is not settled, Benue is not settled. You are just seeing it now, you are going into Kwara and Kogina, and even Edo State. So, why we then not see it as an offense? Because a senator like them in the US brought up Nigeria matter that they refuse to, act on, they're under their own responsibility in Nigeria here. Somebody is not doing that job for them. This way now, you not see them coming to criticize it. It's so unfortunate that when the truth is spoken in this nation, it's read to the other way. But let's see how the American government also came up with it, how they are going to take it, because I still want them to take this matter forward.
Their clamoring is actually, it was reported on Fox News earlier on today. I mean, it has gotten to the mainstream media, and that's the conversation. And you know that the United States have been going on about the jihadist situation ongoing and terrorism-related activities. So it's almost like to clarify or to buttress or to, well, I say, heighten the fence on what intention that they have. They're pointing out to other African nations going through the onslaught of all of this. In actuality, actually, here in Nigeria, Mr. Elvis, these individuals are not looking at your religion or tribe. But the fact is this: it took these men speaking out in their Congress for our politicians to speak up and say, we are one Nigeria. We all have to speak up. Khan had to react. Khan had to respond. The president recently spoke with them. And Khan said, yes, it has always been happening. All right, even if now they are not discriminating. But that Christians have suffered a lot in this country with the persecution from these elements of darkness. In other words, what would you say that the president should do concerning this? I mean, what decisive measure should he take to handle this and possibly dissuade the international community from having this kind of perception? Because they're the ones who rely with this on this international countries by traveling out for some of their luxurious activity and healthcare.
This administration cannot do anything about it, Esther. Let's not deceive ourselves. Do you know where this administration is coming from? This administration, for the first time, have Muslim tickets. President and vice president. It has never happened before. This administration, we remember when they went to start having fake bishops, all in the name of entrenching their Muslim ticket on Nigeria. So coming from that trajectory to where we are now, this present administration cannot speak on. There's nothing they can speak on what the American senator has spoken now, because they are coming from that. They're watching what is going on in Nigeria, and they'll be saying how the deaths are coming in, even though the death is actually not, to Christians alone. We also say a mosque, going, especially in Katsina State, the one we just said that last time, went to mosque and massacre people in early morning prayer and all that. We'll be saying that. So because of the trajectory on ground, especially this Muslim and because what we are saying that is casting across the North Central now, that's the pain. And again, how sophisticatedly equipped is Nigerian army to tackle this matter? It is not wrong. So these are some of the things that they put together now that they know that led to this. And the killing has not. There's nothing like stop inside. Every day we keep hearing Nigerians are being massacred even in the worship centers and in their home and in their farm. So it's a big political matter. Even though I'm not. It didn't start with this government. We saw Kano riot in the 90s. We saw Kano riot in the 90s. We saw Kaduna riot. It didn't start with this government, but they are looking at it that because this government is having a Muslim ticket one, and with the level of development we have gotten now to be in democracy, one would have expected that with the coming of the democracy, these things are not this killing ought to have be successful before now. But we are saying it was. So this is why they are coming up with this kind of statement that what is going on in Nigeria is like massacring the Christians.
All right. Mr. Elvis Alimihala, thank you so much. We've actually run out of time. I sincerely do appreciate your input and giving us your insight in some of the stories read out on the World News at 6.
Thank you, sir. Have a blessed time.
You too, sir. Have a blessed Thursday. All right. Dozens of Nigerian youth under the umbrella of the National Youth Council of Nigeria today took to the streets in Abuja to protest at the headquarters of the Corporate Affairs Commission over the Commission's recent decision to deregister the council. The demonstration, led by NYCN President Ambassador Sukubo Sarah Ibe Sukubo, marked the beginning of a 30-day nationwide protest aimed at forcing the CAC to reverse its action and remove the Registrar General Hussaini Ishaq Magaji, who is a senior advocate certificate of Nigeria. The agitation came shortly after the Federal Ministry of Youth confirmed that the CAC had revoked NYCN's registration certificate and installed a caretaker committee to oversee its operations. As it stands now, they displayed placards with messages such as Registrar General must go, respect court orders, and deregistration of NYCN is a security concern. The demonstrators blocked the main entrance to the CAC headquarters, chanting solidarity songs and demanding justice. Meanwhile, the Obedient Movement have actually congratulated Professor Joash Amupitan on his appointment as the new INEC chairman. The movement expressed optimism that his leadership will usher in a new era of credible and transparent elections in Nigeria. In a statement recently released and jointly signed by Nana Kazore, Director of Strategic Communications and Media, and Dr. Yunus Atanko, who is the national coordinator of the movement, the group extended its warm felicitations to the new appointed electoral chief. They described his emergence as an opportunity to restore public confidence in the electoral system. They went ahead to also disclose, however, what was important for Nigerians to actually look into. The emergence, which is to restore public confidence, is also to reunite Nigerians from its disparity. Professor Amupitan's appointment, recently approved by the Council of State, follows the conclusion of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu's tenure as INEC chair. While on stories outside the shores of Nigeria, Colombian President Gustavo Petro has said that a boat recently bombed by the U.S. was Colombian with Colombian citizens inside, an allegation that the White House called baseless. The U.S. has struck at least 4 vessels in the Caribbean in recent weeks, killing 21 people. The U.S. government has said the strikes in international waters were targeting narco traffickers, but it has not provided evidence or details about who or what is aboard, and the strikes have attracted condemnation in countries in the region amid concerns they breach international law. The U.S. Senate rejected a measure on Wednesday that would have barred President Donald Trump from using military force against the boats. Petro replied to a post on X by U.S. Senator Adam Schiff, a Democrat, who said he would vote to block strikes against vessels in the Caribbean as some lawmakers sought to challenge the use of the armed forces in Congress. And that's a wrap on the world news at 6 right here in Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. Well, just stay with us for the evening rush at 7 o'clock. My name is Esther Wachpu. Bye for now.